There are whispers in the shadows of power, subtle shifts in dynamics that the loud and boisterous never notice. There exists a breed of manipulator, an evil mind that feeds on reaction, thriving in the chaos they create. Their entire strategy is built on your emotional response, your predictable anger, your exploitable fear. But what happens when their hooks find no purchase, when their carefully constructed drama plays out to an audience of one who simply watches with a calm, analytical disinterest? Welcome, gentlemen, to the Sigma male community. This channel is not a stage for empty posturing. It is a fortress for the mind, a training ground for the man who walks his own path. We delve into the art of self-mastery, the quiet strength that emanates from a man who has conquered himself before ever seeking to conquer the world. Today we dissect the very anatomy of that strength, exploring the innate strategies that a Sigma male employs, not with malicious intent, but as a natural consequence of his being, leaving those who thrive on toxicity utterly baffled and powerless in their wake. This isn't about learning tricks, it's about awakening the potent, silent force that already resides within you. 1. The silent erasure protocol. Forget the grand, theatrical gestures of cutting someone off. The loud declarations, the dramatic blocking of numbers, the fiery final text. These are the tools of the emotionally reactive, a final plea for acknowledgement that a toxic individual secretly craves. The Sigma male operates on an entirely different plane. His method is not confrontation, but cessation. It is a psychological vaporization, a quiet and complete removal of the other person from his reality. There is no announcement, no ceremony of departure. One day the manipulator exists as a node in his network. The next they are nothing but a ghost in the machine, their access to his energy, his time, and his focus simply revoked. This is the chilling vacuum of sudden irrelevance, a silence more profound and maddening than any angry tirade. The toxic person is left grappling with an emptiness, a void where they expected a fight. This act isn't driven by a thirst for revenge. It is an act of supreme mental hygiene, an application of a core Stoic principle, to concern oneself only with what is essential. A toxic influence is, by its very nature, non-essential. The Sigma does not fight the villain. He renders them a null value, an error in the code that is simply deleted. Their entire power play, which relied on engagement and emotional investment, evaporates against the impenetrable wall of his disinterest. They are left haunting their own emptiness, forced to confront their greatest fear, not hatred but absolute insignificance. He does not give them the dignity of a battle. He hands them the silent, crushing weight of their own non-existence in his world. 2. The truth scalpel, weaponized reality. In a world drowning in emotional manipulation, curated narratives, and outright deceit, the Sigma male wields a weapon that cuts deeper and cleaner than any insult: unvarnished reality. He is not a preacher who stands on a soapbox, nor is he a debater looking to score points. He is an observer, a diagnostician of falsehood. When confronted with a manipulator's intricate web of lies, he doesn't waste energy trying to unravel the whole thing. Instead, he watches, he listens, and with the calm precision of a master surgeon, he identifies the single weakest point, the one load-bearing lie upon which the entire fragile structure depends. Then, with casual and devastating timing, he makes one clean incision, a single, undeniable fact, a simple, unassailable question dropped into the toxic ecosystem. He then steps back and allows nature to take its course. He understands that truth, once unleashed, is a corrosive agent. It does not require his defense or his continued involvement. The manipulator's house of cards, so carefully built on whispers, half-truths, and emotional leverage, cannot withstand the pressure of this one solid point of reality. It begins to groan, to shift, and then it implodes under its own weight. The Sigma's power is not in the force of his attack, but in the perfection of his timing and the purity of his weapon. He doesn't need to watch the collapse. The revelation itself is the final act. He simply presents what is, and allows the lie to be consumed by its own contradictions. 3. The threat immunity field. To threaten a man who has already walked through the fire of his own making is a fool's errand. The average person's greatest fears are external: loss of status, social rejection, financial ruin. The evil-minded individual uses these fears as currency. But the Sigma male's journey is primarily internal. He has already waged the most difficult war in the solitude of his own mind, confronting his personal demons, his deepest insecurities, his failures, and the shadows of his own nature. He has faced the abyss, not with a legion of supporters but alone, and has emerged not unscathed but whole and self-contained. Your shouted ultimatums, your veiled threats of professional sabotage, your attempts at psychological warfare, they are like throwing pebbles at a mountain. He meets these aggressions with the unnerving, profound calm of a glacier. His stillness is not a performance of defiance. It is the natural state of a man whose center of gravity is located deep within his own soul. Your attempts to trigger fear, guilt, or panic are met with an internal fortress forged in the fires of self-confrontation. You are not battling him. You are screaming into a void he has already explored and mastered. This is the essence of Stoic resilience. The understanding that external events have no power over the inner citadel of the mind unless we grant them that power. The Sigma has long since sealed those gates, leaving manipulators utterly bewildered as their most potent weapons glance off his unshakable calm. 4. The polite annihilation strategy. There is nothing more disarming and psychologically defeating to an aggressor than impeccable, unwavering politeness in the face of their hostility. The Sigma male understands this intuitively. While a toxic individual rages, postures, or attempts to manipulate a situation with emotional outbursts, the Sigma remains a pillar of unnerving composure. He will hold the door for them, use a calm tone of voice and maintain relaxed body language, all while they are imploding. This isn't a sign of weakness or submission. It is a display of supreme control, a subtle form of psychological warfare that starves the enemy of their necessary fuel. The villain expects drama. They crave a reaction, a flash of anger, a tremor of fear, anything to validate their power. Instead, they are met with the soul-crushing indifference of a man who is observing their tantrum as if it were a mildly interesting weather pattern. This polite detachment communicates a powerful message: your chaos cannot touch my peace. Your attempts to control me are so insignificant that they do not even warrant an emotional response. Their power, which is entirely dependent on the engagement of others, evaporates in the face of his undisturbed calm. They are not defeated in a climactic battle. They are simply rendered irrelevant, their emotional firestorm extinguished by the sheer absence of combustible material on his end. They are annihilated not by force, but by the devastating power of his unshakable poise. 5. The strategic invisibility maneuver. While the loud revolutionary storms the front gates and is quickly cut down, the Sigma male slips through a side entrance, unseen and unheard. He understands that some corrupt systems are too entrenched to be taken by direct assault. Instead of announcing himself as an opponent, he becomes a ghost within the machine. He adopts a posture of quiet competence, blending into the background, becoming part of the scenery. From this vantage point he does not resist, he observes. He maps the intricate machinery of toxicity, learning its secret levers, its pressure points, its dependencies and its hidden structural flaws. He sees who pulls the strings and what they fear the most. His strike, when it comes, is not a roar of defiance but the silent, precise removal of a single critical component. It might be a strategically leaked piece of information, a quiet word to the right person, or the subtle refusal to perform a key task that keeps the corrupt engine running. He applies pressure in the one place the system is weakest, and then he vanishes back into the shadows. The system doesn't explode in a satisfying fireball. It grinds to a halt, it seizes up, it implodes under the weight of its own rotten structure. The corrupt leaders are left scrambling, blaming each other, fighting shadows, completely unaware that the architect of their downfall was the quiet man they never even noticed. His power lies not in confrontation, but in his unique ability to catalyze self-destruction. Feel that quiet intensity rising within you as you process this? That is the resonance of truth. That is your power source. While the rest of the world screams for attention and validation, flailing in response to every external trigger, your true strength is forged in the deliberate, calculated pause. This philosophy isn't about becoming a cold, emotionless machine. It is about mastering the immense force you possess, channeling it into absolute, unshakable control. Every point we discussed today is not just a tactic to be learned, but a piece of the anatomy of your inherent advantage as a man who thinks for himself. You do not need the noise, the drama, or the external validation. You are the calm that methodically and inevitably dismantles the storm. If you recognize this core principle in yourself, you are tapping into the authentic Sigma signature, the stormproof inner citadel. Now let us continue to amplify it. 6. The Respect Defiance Doctrine. In our modern world, respect is often demanded, not earned. It is attached to hollow job titles, inflated social media followings, and the authority that comes from a position of power, regardless of the character of the person holding it. The toxic individual, the bully, and the corrupt leader all rely on this game. They demand deference based on their title, shouting, "Respect my position," while their actions prove they deserve none. To the Sigma male, this is all meaningless noise. He does not play the game of unearned respect. His assessment of a person is based on a single, immutable metric: their character. The CEO who mistreats his subordinates, the self-proclaimed guru who preys on the vulnerable, the bully backed by a crowd of sycophants. They receive the same thing from him: dispassionate, polite, and utter dismissal. This isn't an act of overt rudeness. It is an act of radical honesty and internal integrity. Toxic egos, which are built like fragile shells around a core of insecurity, require constant external validation to survive. They starve in the presence of a Sigma male. His refusal to offer fear or fawning deference isn't an attack, but a reflection. It holds up a mirror to the emptiness of their entire game. Their demands for respect crash against the unshakable shores of his self-containment, and in that collision, it is their authority that shatters. They crave control over him, but his quiet confidence and unwavering principles inadvertently make them feel small and insignificant. He doesn't need to reject them. His very presence exposes the fraudulence of their power. 7. The Arrogance Trap, Calculated Naivety. When a Sigma male encounters a person with an unchecked, grandiose ego, he instinctively knows that a direct confrontation is a waste of energy. Arguing with an arrogant person only fuels their desire to dominate. So he chooses a far more devastating strategy. He sets a trap using their own ego as the bait. He adopts an air of quiet, almost naive curiosity. He asks simple questions. He listens intently, allowing the arrogant villain to monologue, to inflate their own importance, to strut and boast and build their own legend in real time. The Sigma offers just enough encouragement to keep them going, observing them as a scientist observes a specimen, noting the growing inconsistencies, the insecure boasts, and the ever-deepening hole they are digging for themselves. Then once the ego is fully inflated, stretched to its most fragile and translucent point, he acts. With the precision of a sniper, he asks the one simple, devastating question, or makes the one quiet, undeniable observation that targets the foundational lie of their entire performance. There is no shouting match, no exchange of insults. It is the simple, cold, undeniable force of truth meeting superheated air. The resulting implosion is a sight to behold. Their grand facade collapses in on itself, punctured not by an attack, but by their own exposed folly. The Sigma did not battle their ego. He simply gave it enough rope to hang itself, revealing its pathetic weakness under his silent, patient scrutiny. 8. The Lie Decryption Algorithm. For most people, a well-crafted lie is a convincing narrative. For a Sigma male, a lie is a fascinating puzzle. He doesn't get swept away by the emotion of the story, he decodes the deception in real time. This isn't a mystical psychic power, it is the result of hyper-observation and a mind uncluttered by emotional bias. He sees the data points that others miss, the micro-pause before a crucial detail, the fleeting flicker of an eye toward the exit, the subtle shift in vocal tonality, the one part of the story that doesn't logically align with a previously established fact. He sees the delicate, almost invisible seams in the fabric of their falsehood. He often allows the liar to continue, to weave their intricate tapestry of deceit. He is not being fooled. He is gathering intelligence, studying the pattern of their thinking, and mapping the architecture of their dishonesty. By the time they finish their performance, he isn't just aware of the lie. He possesses a complete blueprint of their entire fabrication. He doesn't always choose to expose it immediately. Sometimes the knowledge itself is the weapon. He can wield that unspoken truth, letting the lie hang in the air between them, a silent sword of Damocles over the liar's head. For a man whose native language is truth, falsehood is not a convincing story, it is simply a glaring and obvious error in the code. 9. The Enemy Acquisition Imperative. For the average man, popularity is a goal. To be liked by many is seen as a measure of success. For the Sigma male, widespread popularity is often a sign of compromise, and the disdain of the corrupt and powerful is a badge of honor. He does not fear making enemies of the right people. He considers it an imperative. When he observes a person in a position of power, be it in a corporation, a social circle, or any other hierarchy, who is arrogant, manipulative, and morally bankrupt, he does not shy away. He is not intimidated by their protected status, their wealth, or their legion of followers. In fact, the more untouchable the villain seems, the more intriguing the puzzle becomes. His objective is not to take their seat at the table. His objective is to understand and, if necessary, dismantle the rotten throne upon which they sit. He studies their weaknesses, their systemic flaws, and the insecurities that fuel their need for dominance. Corrupt power relies on two things: fear and submission. The Sigma offers neither. His loyalty is not to a person or a company, but to his own internal code of principles. This makes him an unpredictable, incorruptible, and therefore untouchable force that those in illegitimate power instinctively dread. He is not a rival to be defeated. He becomes the silent, ever-present shadow that haunts the foundations of their ill-gotten authority. 10. The emotional static shield. Manipulators, narcissists, and all manner of toxic individuals are, at their core, emotional vampires. They require a steady diet of your reactive energy to survive. They provoke you to harvest your anger. They guilt-trip you to feast on your compliance. They create drama to feed on your anxiety. Their entire operating system is designed to elicit a response. When they attempt this with a Sigma male, they hit a solid wall of pure, unnerving static. He flatlines their efforts. There is no spike of anger in his voice, no tremor of anxiety in his hands, no defensive flicker in his eyes. There is just calm, dead air. The emotional broadcast they send out is met with nothing but silence. This is not emotional suppression in the unhealthy sense. It is an impenetrable firewall of the mind, a conscious choice not to allow external chaos to dictate his internal state. Their carefully crafted hooks, designed to snag on ego and insecurity, find no purchase and fall harmlessly to the ground. Their dramatic performances, which rely on an engaged audience, echo into an empty chamber. Starved of the emotional fuel they so desperately need, their tactics sputter, falter, and ultimately die. His non-reaction is not passivity, it is an active, powerful weapon. It is an electromagnetic pulse that fries their manipulative circuitry, leaving them confused, frustrated, and utterly powerless. 11. The Singular Strike Doctrine. Evil, corruption, and manipulation thrive in an environment of frantic noise and constant, chaotic action. They want you to be reactive, to engage in 1,000 tiny skirmishes, to waste your energy putting out the small fires they set. The Sigma male refuses to play this game. He embodies a state of tectonic stillness. He watches the chaos unfold, observes the desperate posturing and the frantic power grabs, but he does not engage. He is absorbing every detail, mapping the flow of energy, identifying the true source of the instability. He doesn't waste his power on pointless battles. He conserves it, letting it build, coiled and ready for the one decisive moment. His move, when it finally comes, is timed not for speed but for maximum, irreversible impact. It is rarely a grand, theatrical gesture. More often, it is a subtle, almost imperceptible shift. A single word, a precise action, a quiet revelation, placed with surgical precision directly into the heart of the chaos. The effect is seismic. The entire toxic dynamic fractures and collapses from that one singular point of pressure. While everyone else is left scrambling in the confusion of the aftermath, trying to understand what just happened, the Sigma is already gone. He has moved on. His victory is not announced with a triumphant roar. It resonates in the stunned, deafening silence he leaves in his wake. One move. Game over. These are not just strategies. They are the external expression of a deeply rooted internal order. The power to dismantle evil and toxicity does not come from a playbook of tactics, but from the unwavering cultivation of a sovereign mind. It stems from the Stoic understanding that our true strength lies not in controlling others, but in mastering ourselves. The silent erasure, the truth scalpel, the immunity to threats, all are born from a mind that has chosen rationality over reactivity, and integrity over social acceptance. This is the path of the Sigma male. It is a solitary road, but it leads to a fortress of unshakable personal peace and formidable strength. If the principles discussed in this video resonated with you on a profound level, then let that resonance be known. A like on this video is a signal that this thinking matters. A comment below shares your own insights and strengthens the resolve of this entire brotherhood. Share this video not for clout, but as a map for another man who may be walking this path alone, searching for this language. And if you have found a sense of recognition here, a feeling of coming home to a philosophy that speaks your language, then join our ranks. Hit subscribe and ring the notification bell, not to become a mere follower, but to receive a regular reminder of the sovereign, powerful mind you are committed to building. Here at the Sigma Male community, we don't just observe the game of life. We learn to change its very nature from the inside out. Stay vigilant. Stay sovereign.